this episode, I'm going to take you through everything you need to know to get you up and running with Azure Virtual Desktop. One may almost call it the complete beginner's guide. Check it out. Today's video is sponsored by Sysaid, who have just launched its new AI Agent Builder, and it comes complete with pre-built, ready-to-use AI agents. It's transforming the way IT teams work. For more details, check out the link below or visit them today at sysaid.com. On today's episode, I thought I'd take a look at Azure Virtual Desktop, the ability to deliver remote desktops and applications to your business and work environments. Now, there's a number of reasons why you might do this. You want to deliver the same kind of template desktop in a call center perhaps, or you might just want to have those old machines, those old PCs have a new lease of life. Either way, it's a fantastic solution. So I'm going to take you through everything you need to know to get you up and running with this amazing technology. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd love you to come on board. So bump the subscribe button up there and ring that bell and come and join my great learning community here. And if you've got questions and comments, as always, you know what to do. Get those down below and I'll do my absolute best for you. Now, just to mention that if you've not signed up to my Patreon site, this will give you access to full Microsoft courses, monthly Zoom calls, and a lot more. So make sure that you sign up just here. Okay, that's it for now. Hope you enjoy and get ready to learn. Here we go. Now, first of all, the step-by-step guide. I'm going to do a search here for virtual networks. Now, you can actually create this as part of the setup, but I prefer to do this in advance. I think you've got a little bit more control. So I'm just using a kind of demo environment here, and I can see I've created a subscription. I've got my resource group, and I'm going to give my virtual network a name. Now, I can choose the data center. Typically, you would choose a data center that's closest to you. Obviously, some security settings here. I'm not going to bother with those just now, but I am going to set the range, the IP address range. I'm going to do this as 10.20.0.0 with a subnet of 16 here, you see. Next, I'm going to create a subnet. So I'm just going to basically edit the default subnet there. I'm going to change the name of the subnet. So rather than calling it default, you can call it something a bit more meaningful. So I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm just going to call it HP1 subnet. You can see I want to use the IPv4 address space, and you can also use IPv6 if you're using that as well. I'm going to go in and set up a starting address for my subnet. And you can see it looks good at the moment. Again, with security, I'm not using any kind of NAT gateway at the moment, but again, I'll cover this in a future session. So I'm going to click on next, and I think I'm pretty happy with this just now. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to set that up. So the first thing that we need to do then is create our virtual network. Now, once that's done, we just create that. That can take a few minutes. I've kind of sped this demo up a little bit. And you can see that the deployment is now complete. So once that's now complete, we can now move on. You can either go to the resource, of course, but more likely, I'm just going to do a search now for the Microsoft Entra. Now, for Azure Virtual Desktop, typically you're going to have two types of users. You're going to have a user and you're going to have an admin. So what I'm doing here is we've got like a couple of demo user accounts. So I'm going to go into the groups here. And in the groups, I'm just going to create a couple of default groups. Click on new group, and I'm going to create, this is a security group, and this is called my application group, my DAG group here. And again, you can add an owner in if you want to, but in this example, I'm just adding in some members to the group. So I've got two users. I've got student 1 and student 2. So I'm going to just add that first student in here, and he's a member of the DAG group. So the second one is the application group, or the resource group rather, I should say. And I'm just going to add another user. So this time I'm just going to add my second user account. So this is student 1 as opposed to student 2. And I'm going to click on next. And you can see that my remote app group is now created. Okay, so 2 groups, my DAG group and my remote app group there. So one is for the remote desktop, one is for the various applications. So now that I've done that, I can now flip back into the Azure portal and I'm going to click on Azure Virtual Desktop. So this is basically where all the magic happens. Okay, so I'm going to come into Manage, and the first thing that we need to create is a host pool. In other words, a pool of virtual machines that's going to act as the host. So we've got the subscription and we select the resource group. Now, if you haven't got a resource group, you can just create one. Give the host pool a meaningful name, and you want to choose the location that's closest to you. Are you going to want to validate the environment? So yes. And this is important. What's the purpose? Are you going to use it for a remote app or for a desktop option? So for this demo, I'm choosing remote app, and then you can choose the host type. So pooled tends to be, for example, in a call center, you're all using the same type of machine, or you can use just a desktop or a static desktop for like management and so on. Then you've got breadth first and depth first. So breadth means that if you've got 50 machines, that it's just going to make the random use to any random machine. Or depth first means that one machine is filled before moving to the next one. Then it says, do you want to add actual virtual machines to your host pool? And you can add these anytime, by the way. So I'm going to say yes, I want to add them. And I'm going to create a name prefix. Now, in this example, I'm just going to use SH. Again, you can type in random or a random series of numbers. Either way, it has to be random. Choose the location. Again, you can set the infrastructure requirements. So whether you want clustering and so on. Again, I'm just keeping it simple. Now, for the version of Windows 11, you can see I'm choosing a multi-session version, and this is the magic. This is where the magic happens, whereas you would use a standard edition if it was just a remote desktop that you're going to assign to a specific user. I'm going to install 2 virtual machines here, and I'm using standard SSD drives at 128 gig. And you can see it says, did you want to install this into Intune? I've said no. And it says, okay, do you want to have a public inbound port? And also you've noticed I've selected the subnet that I've just created. At this point, it says, do you want to be part of Active Directory or Entra ID? Well, all my resources are in the cloud, so of course I'm choosing Entra. And again, you just set up a user account here. Don't worry about this. This can be changed later, by the way. Okay, so now that we've done that, you just do a quick review just to make sure that you're happy with everything. And once you're happy, I am, off it goes, and it creates our host pool for us. Now, this can take about 20 minutes, depending on how many virtual machines you put into it. So obviously you don't want to wait 20 minutes. So some time goes by and you can now see that the deployment is in progress and it's now finished. So now what I'm going to do is let's have a look at it. What can we do with this host pool? Well, you might want to deploy some applications to the host pool. So for this, we can simply go into the, well, you've got this thing called application groups here, and I can go into the host pool itself. And you can see before you start using the host pool, the first thing you're going to want to do is assign some users to it. So I can click onto assignment and you can see I'm assigning my DAG group to this particular host pool. Okay. Now, once you've assigned the user, you can either deploy applications, of course. In this case, it was a remote desktop solution. So, but again, you can go in and you can add more if you want to. So you can see here, session desktop. So I've got a desktop here that I could use and so on. So the nice thing about a host pool, folks, is that you can have many application groups and you can assign them to different departments, different teams of people. So I can come in here and I can say, you know, I quite fancy creating a second application group. So if that remote desktop is for one, this is for my second group of users. Again, select the resource group. So again, typically you would want to keep everything in the same resource group, keep it nice and tidy, bearing in mind that a resource group is like a container. It's almost like a department, if you will. Select the host pool. So again, it's the same host pool that I'm using, and you can see it's defaulted the location. You can see it's already picked up that it's a remote app, so it's a shared environment. So I'm not using a standard desktop. I'll give the application group a name here. So this is my Office apps. I'm going to click on Next. And again, you can assign assignments here if you want to. Again, I can come back to that later, but what I am going to do is I'm going to come in and add in some apps here. So you can see I've got Microsoft Office, and there's many different types of apps here. So again, I'm just going to bring in Microsoft Word. You can choose, does it require a command line? Do you want to put some notes in and so on? So you can do all of that. Again, I'm just going to review and create that. So off it goes. It creates the application group, and we've now added in that first app. So once you've done that, you might want to add some more apps in. Okay, so this, once it just takes a couple of moments. So that we're now in that Office application group. And once that's been configured, we can just simply go back to Manage and Applications. And now you can see that Microsoft Word is here. So as I said, you might want to go back in and let's say we might want to bring in Excel, for example. So we just put in the path for Excel. Again, you can put in a little description, and you can see it's already picked up the expected location path of the application. So again, just click on Add, and that takes a second, and then let's just do one more. I'm going to go in and we'll add in, let's say PowerPoint here. Okay. So with PowerPoint, again, just add in that and just put in the application name, and then we can put in a description. So just bring in that and then pull in a description here. And again, just click on Review and add, and of course you could keep going with this if you wanted to. So once you've added all the apps that you want, of course we've now assigned it, we'll need to assign that to a group of users. So for this, we simply come into Assignments, and you can see there's nobody assigned. I click on Add, and again I can now select the group of users that I want to give access to those particular apps or that application group. So you can see this time I'm going to give access to the other group here. So now that I've done that, that's it. I've assigned it. So I've created the application group. I've assigned some applications to that group, and I've also assigned permissions to it. So the next thing that I might want to do is now there you go. Now you can see I've got two application groups there. So again, you can create different application groups with different requirements if you want to. And again, it really depends on your uses. Now, Andy, what about things like command lines? Could I do like a command line interface? Absolutely. So it doesn't need to be for example, a Microsoft Word document or something like that. You can actually put in a command line. So in this demo, you can see I'm going into the file path option, and I'm bringing in the path option for, let's say, the command line tool. This could be PowerShell. It could be anything that you want. You'll put in the application identifier. So typically here, tell it what it is. So in this case, it's a command prompt. Again, the display name, I'm just going to put in the same command prompt. I can put in a description here as well. And again, does this require a command line? No, it doesn't. That means a command line to run it. It doesn't require that. So again, I'm just going to click on Next. Of course, oops, sorry, I forgot, obviously give it a name. That would be useful. So the icon is important so that this appears on the user's desktop, of course. So now that you've done that, I simply go and click on Add, and I'm happy with the way that this is looking, and I can just click Review and create, and off it goes. Finally coming in, I'm now going to add in the permissions for the user. So again, I'm going to add this to a different user and add the user permission in. So yeah, we'll just give them this one here and just type in the remote app group. Yeah, that's fine. And then I'm going to click on select. So what we've done then, really simple, created the command line, published it to the application group, and now we can just push that out to our users. So you get a quick review, and if you're happy with that, I can just go and click on create. It would tell you, by the way, if there was any errors before. It wouldn't let you create it if there was errors, by the way. So again, might take a little bit of time just to get that through. So you can see chug, 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 a little bit of time goes by, and that is now pretty much complete. So we are now pretty much ready to go. And that is that application group done with the application. So once it's done, obviously it will take you to the resource if you want to. Otherwise that you can always navigate to it. So now I'm going to come into the host pool, and we're going to look at the RDP properties. And you can see here that we've got a number of tabs here which talk about the connection information, the behavior, if you want to set up device redirection and things like that. And that's all little check boxes. So every time you click on the check boxes, you can see it creates this little script here, which is useful. Of course, you can type that script in if you want to. So finally, the next thing we need to do, of course, is we need to download the remote desktop app. Now in this demo, I'm just using a lab, and this is the remote desktop. Typically now, of course, you would use the Windows app. So the newly named Windows app, simply download it. Very, very similar kind of experience. Just basically go ahead and install this. So once this is finished, we just basically wait for it to load up for a second. And then once it loads up, what we do is let's get started and click on the subscribe button. So the subscribe button, obviously it's asking us for our Microsoft account. So we can just type in our Microsoft account here and then click on next, and of course put in our password. Now, of course, Microsoft are rolling out multi-factor authentication. So again, you might see that coming soon. And now you can see that we've got our session host. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is when I click onto the settings, you can see it's just saying, do you want to go ahead and use those default settings? Now, that for the most part, that might be fine, but you may not. So this is where you can go in and you can say, hey, I want to use, for example, multiple displays. So, you might have a couple of displays on your desktop. You might want to use a dedicated display. You might want to configure things like the screen resolution, again, depending on how much bandwidth you've got access to. Again, fitting things to the window, select your displays, which one you want to be the primary display, and so on. So once you've made those choices, you can then go ahead and fire up that remote desktop. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click it, and you can see it just takes a moment just to fire up that desktop environment. Now in this demo, you'll notice it's asking me for my credentials. Now, during the configuration, it is possible to set up single sign-on so that you don't get this. And in fact, in a future video, I'm going to talk about the identity components and that there. So you can see I'm now running a Windows 11 machine. Everything looks pretty good, doesn't it? So again, I can just close that down if I want to. Now you'll notice there's no apps in this particular version because I've that group that I signed up to doesn't have any apps. But what would happen if I signed in as a user that does have access to those apps? Let's do that. So I'm just going to click OK and close that session down. and I'm going to go back in again, and this time I'm just going to subscribe, but as a different user this time. So this is the student 1, and student 1 does have access to those remote apps, of course. So click on sign in. Again, just takes a second. Again, same desktop. This time though, just give it a quick refresh, and now you can see that those apps have now turned up. So not only do we have the command prompts, of course, we've also got Excel, Word, and PowerPoint here. So, and again, the cool thing is I can just click on that remote desktop, or the command prompt rather, and you can see it doesn't prompt or doesn't fire up the actual virtual machine or virtual desktop. It just fires up the application. So if you're familiar with the likes of Citrix technologies and so on, this will be a very familiar experience to you. So as the remote desktop starts, you can see it's just that application that's actually running. So whether you're running Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever the application, you're going to get that seamless experience. And as far as the user is concerned, it looks and feels just like a local app. I absolutely love this feature. I think it absolutely rocks. Okay, so I'll just close that down, and there you go. That is remote desktop apps. Of course, you can fire any of these up as well if you want to. You can see here's Microsoft Word, and you get a very similar experience. Absolutely awesome. So there you have it, Azure Virtual Desktop, remote desktops and applications. How cool is that? That's really good, isn't it? Hey, listen, I really hope that you got a lot out of it, and if you enjoyed the session, give me a big thumbs up and bump that subscribe button, and come and join us and continue your learning journey. Okay, questions and comments, as always, get those down below and I'll be delighted to help. Okay, that's it for this time. I really appreciate you stopping by. You stay safe.